arrogant, so ravenous for victory in the Olympics that it would try to turn young women into virtual men. Indeed, that actually happened. This was a sinister experiment carried out for years on children as young as age 10, secretly using them as laboratory rats for the sole purpose of bringing home the gold. What government was this? Elizabeth Vargas brings us this heartbreaking story. How could it happen? How could we not have known?
I remember seeing these huge shoulders, and I was thinking, oh man, look at the guys' team, they're really big. And then I noticed a shoulder strap, and I thought, oh my gosh, that's the women, we're going to swim against them. I mean, everybody was going, who are these people?
They were called the Wonder Girls, the fastest, strongest athletes ever produced by East Germany.
An upset. Richter of East Germany is the winner.
The U.S. Olympic swim team watched in disbelief as East Germany, a country that had never won a single gold medal in women's swimming, seemed unbeatable in 1976.
Richard Dumer of East Germany is going to win it.
There was a lot of speculation. They've got to be doing something to be making these kind of times.
4:09.89. They have destroyed the world record.
They've got to be taking some kind of drug.
The rumors were rampant. They had to be on steroids. But the East Germans passed every drug test they took. Had they somehow found a way to beat the system?
It's an East German sweep.
You knew. You knew when you looked at them. You knew when you swam against them. Everybody suspected it. Everybody.
Everyone, it seems, except the East German Wonder Girls. They didn't know it, but they had been turned into chemical guinea pigs.
You have to understand how isolated we were. We didn't have television or radio. We were known as the uninformed. We didn't hear any of the rumors about doping.
It was an elaborate experiment carried out behind the Berlin Wall in communist East Germany, a country where everything was controlled by the government. A 1,000-mile electrified barrier with 10,000 armed guards made this the most heavily fortified border in the world. Those who tried to escape to the west had to cross a death zone filled with landmines. Hundreds died trying to flee this impoverished dictatorship. It was not the image the communists wanted the world to see, so they devised a plan. It was 1974 when East German officials decided to turn this tiny nation into a superpower in sports. Its athletes would win Olympic gold at any cost. They would fight the Cold War in sports stadiums.
East Germany was not so successful, it was not so rich, this country. So sports was a field where East Germany could show the whole world that this country is also very powerful, very strong. And sports was a very good opportunity to show that.
To ensure victory, they began giving performance-enhancing drugs to all competing athletes, even children as young as 10. The athletes were told they were vitamins, but the little blue pills were oral turinabol, a powerful steroid that allowed athletes to build muscle, train harder and longer, and do it all over again the next day.
You're a doctor. What effect do anabolic steroids have on young girls?
That's, an experiment that is so horrible, if you wish, is a young female body, and you load it with male hormones. It was nothing but the use of male hormones to make the female body more male.
The experiment worked beyond their wildest expectations. Karola Nitschke was just 14 when she broke the world breaststroke record.
I can remember getting 10 tablets at a time, 30 a day.
What would happen if you tried to refuse taking some of these tablets? If you said, I don't feel like taking 30 pills, or I'm suspecting that these might not just be vitamins?
You didn't dare say that. You just kept it secret, and you kept taking the pills. I didn't have the guts to say I wouldn't take them. I was just 14 years old.
They treated their young athletes really like like objects, like, you wouldn't do this sometimes to experimental animals.
Gar nicht so, aber...
People would ask, what's wrong with your voice? Do you have a cold? Are you hoarse? I also had huge muscles.
Birgit Matz and her teammates say they were told the muscles were due to the grueling training they endured. In fact, this propaganda film claims the secret to their success was the specialized weightlifting East German trainers had scientifically perfected.
From the very beginning, we were told everything that happens here doesn't concern anyone else. You can talk among yourselves, but we need to keep how we train and what happens here a secret. It was an unbelievably big secret.
But many of the young girls were baffled at what was happening to their bodies.
I
started growing a little beard, and it's still like that today. I really have to work to control it. The hair on my leg is like an ape, and my face is like a man's.
So at that point, these are very strong changes in your bodies. You're gaining weight, you're getting larger, your voice is deepening, you're growing more hair on your bodies. Did you start to suspect that you were in fact being given steroids?
Was wissen 14-, 15-Jährige über Steroide?
What do 14-, 15-year-old kids know about steroids?
Was sind Steroide, was sind Hormone?
What is testosterone? We didn't know. We were young people who trusted adults. We never thought they'd let anything bad happen to us.
It's been more than 10 years since the Berlin Wall, separating East and West Berlin, came down. 10 years since secret documents confirmed what many had long suspected, a dirty little secret, formerly known as State Plan 1425. It was a sinister scheme carried out by high-level officials, a master plan to drug the children of East Germany and make them super athletes. But now, a literal mountain of once classified documents discovered in the former headquarters of the East German secret police, the Stasi, reveals precisely how State Plan 1425 was carried out. Journalist Hans-Joachim Seppelt has written a book on what he found in the Stasi files.
I was really shocked. I was shocked how detailed, how organized the whole system was working. It was unbelievable.
We're not talking about the East Germans just saying, okay, let's give all these swimmers one anabolic steroid pill a day. They actually individually calculated each athlete and what they might need to improve their performance, right?
Right.
And it chronicled the side effects, which sometimes weren't so nice.
You can see all in the Stasi files. It's amazing. You can read all. It's like a really, really big story of crimes, what you can read there.
The Wonder Girls, once invincible, now discovered they were victims, betrayed by their government, their coaches, and their doctors, who traded their health for gold medals.
The gold medal is awarded to Rika Reinisch.
Just 1 year after winning 3 gold medals at the 1980 Olympics in Moscow, Rika Reinisch was hospitalized with sky-high testosterone levels and inflamed ovaries. She was 15.
I can't count the number of times I've been in the hospital for gynecological problems and for my heart, which is enlarged because of the steroids. My health is a wreck.
Reinisch is one of dozens of athletes who have come forward to testify against the 2 most powerful men in East German sports, accused of systematically doping young athletes without their knowledge. Prosecutors put together an indictment listing 142 athletes now suffering devastating health problems. Katrina Menschner says she was given experimental doses of steroids that caused her vertebrae to collapse at the age of 14.
Also zum einen hatte ich 7 Fehlgeburten.
I've had 7 miscarriages. I also still have unbelievable back pain. It doesn't get better with time, it gets worse.
Birgit Meinecke, 2-time world champion, has now been diagnosed with a liver tumor.
Ich habe manchmal auch Angst, nicht alt zu werden.
I want to grow old. I want to become a grandmother. And I worry I won't have that opportunity.
The indictment includes Olympic champions in swimming and track and field, lives forever changed by steroids. Shot putter Heidi Kriege was 21 when she won gold at the 1986 European Championships. But years of testosterone shots changed her body so radically, she no longer felt she was a woman and had a sex change operation. Now, Andreas Krieger was ready to testify against those he holds responsible.
The steroids didn't just affect my body, they also affected my soul. I was simply not myself anymore. The drugs took me in a masculine direction without my even realizing it.
Krieger says he struggled for years before making the decision to have his breasts and his ovaries removed.
When all one can think about is ending one's life, it's frightening. That's how far I'd gone.
And the damage may not have stopped with the athletes. Some believe their babies are victims too.
My daughter is only 6 years old and has already had 11 operations.
Jutta Klaas believes her daughter is virtually blind as a result of the steroids Klaas was given as a promising young swimmer.
They didn't treat us like humans. We were practically machines. They used us.
We tracked down one of the team doctors who administered the little blue pills, Dorit Rosla.
Why didn't you question the orders to give the steroids to the children?
It was never clear to me that there were dangerous side effects. They were covered up, and I never knew about them.
But you are a doctor, and you are in charge of making sure these athletes are in good health. Didn't you have enough knowledge that there could at least be the possibility of dangerous repercussions?
The question is always going to be there. Why didn't I wake up? The pressure was enormously big, and if something wasn't working, everyone was rounded up. What can we change? Who is not doing their job? Is it the trainer? Is it the doctor?
The first test of State Plan 1425 was the 1976 Olympics in Montreal. It was the world's biggest stage, and the East Germans were dominant from day one.
These East Germans in these techniques. Oh, and lobbed it way beyond the Olympic record. What an opening these East German girls are having.
Kramerowitz for East Germany, new world record. It takes 4 seconds off it. That's an astonishing run.
Their plan was to beat the United States. That small country was up to beat the United States. They wanted to be number one in the world.
And the plan was working.
Here she is, Cornelia Ender.
The world was captivated by the East German Wonder Girls, led by 18-year-old Cornelia Ender, who at 5'10" and 170 pounds was seemingly unstoppable.
That 6 feet kick of Ender's is devastating. She's so strong.
It is Ender first, Cornelia Ender.
She was like a second and a half better in 100 free. That's night and day. Not night and later that night, it's night and day. It's incredible.
A new world and Olympic record for the phenomenal young woman from East Germany, Cornelia Ender.
The U.S. team was as strong as ever, but now the Americans were losing to a team who had come out of nowhere.
We always came in as the gold medal winners. I mean, since 56, always. And then all of a sudden we go into 76 and we're all the women's swimmers' gold medals.
One of the things that was hardest for me as a competitor was that we were swimming against people who were cheating. In my mind, it's not the best way to prepare for competition.
Karen Thornton had won gold in the 200-meter butterfly at the 72 Olympics, but this time the East German women swept the race, taking first, second, and third.
It's an East German sweep in the women's 200-meter butterfly.
If we had known in 76 what we know now, which is that the East German swimmers were taking steroids, they would have been disqualified, and you would have been the gold medal winner.
Yeah, that's true. Instead, I have a best time and a fourth.
As Karen Moe Thornton fought her heart out, and she could not quite catch
the loser prize.
Rosemary Gabriel Crowther of East Germany.
In fact, every one of these American women would have won gold medals at the 1976 Olympics if the East Germans had been disqualified for using steroids.
In 25 years, has the disappointment faded at all?
I think it's like going to war and you come home and you've lost the war. You know, you've still got that feeling of losing.
The highlight of getting a gold medal is standing on the podium, seeing the United States flag get raised, hearing the national anthem. You can't go back and get that.
Babashov going for gold. Can she get it? No, I don't think so. Petra Toomer touches it, wins the gold.
Silver medals, second best. There was only one race left, one final chance to win gold for the United States.
One final chance. Who would be the winners? We'll show you those final moments. And here's the big question. How did the East Germans fool Olympic drug testers? The secrets of the perfect race when we come back.
It's the only thing. Miss America Live, Saturday, 8/7 Central on ABC. He's coming.
2020 continues with The Perfect Race. Once again, Barbara Walters.
For East Germany, the 1976 Olympic Games were a glorious vindication of a twisted master plan. Its athletes were crushing the competition in Montreal. As Elizabeth Vargas continues, you will see once top-secret film footage of East Germany's bizarre training program. But first, back to the starting gun. The dispirited U.S. women's swim team is about to face the unstoppable East Germans one more time.
This is their last shot now at any kind of a gold in this relay.
That's right. It's the last shot for our American women to win a gold at all.
With only one race to go, it looked as if the U.S. women might go home without a single gold medal.
We had not heard our national anthem play all week long in the United States women's swimming.
All right, we're about ready live here to the Olympic pool.
And it came to the final day, the final event of the 4x100 free relay.
There they go, and Ender with that great start of hers jumps right out in lane 4. Ender of East Germany in the lead.
Wendy Bolio.
We knew what we had to do. We had to go faster than we had ever gone before, and not by tenths of a second.
Wendy Bolio has picked up on the East Germans.
We asked the women from the 76 Olympic swim team to relive the race. It was an excruciating 4 minutes.
Look at this. She's down in the lead. Here's an upset right now.
Upset.
Jill Circle has taken the lead. Here's Shirley Babashaw. She'll swim anchor.
That's world record 352. We're
Oh, great.
48. Down to your last set.
Babashaw in the lead. Lane 3. Hempel's coming on.
This makes me nervous.
United States in the lead.
Oh my gosh, this is just too close.
Here's the drive to the finish. Babashaw hanging on, going for the wall, and Babashaw is the winner. The United States has upset East Germany in the 4x 100-meter freestyle relay.
I mean, it was absolutely the most incredible feeling ever.
The crowd on its feet. It's been one of the outstanding events.
The U.S. women not only won, they set a new world record.
Oh, they're a happy bunch. That was so...
Here they had been on performance-enhancing drugs, and everybody knew it, and yet we beat them.
The United States has upset the
What it showed us is, yeah, you can take that, but we can still beat you.
One gold medal, while the East German women had won gold in 11 out of 13 events. The U.S. team was convinced all those medals had been won by swimming under the influence, but they couldn't prove it.
And any little bit that we said about it was just...
You're a poor sport.
Poor sport.
Still, co-captain Wendy Bolio was stunned by what happened when she voiced her suspicions in an interview.
I used to get death threats after I came back from the Olympics from all these people that would send me nasty letters, leave nasty messages on my phone about how dare the American women accuse these poor East German women of taking steroids. They're just better than you. Face it, they're just better and stronger.
By now, East Germany was in a sports-crazed frenzy. Fueled by victory, the government escalated its twisted plan. Children were recruited in kindergarten and tested to see if they had the potential to win gold. Unsuspecting parents signed releases, giving the state complete charge of their children. And in a country where people had to wait 15 years to get an apartment, some parents bartered for perks from the state in exchange for signing. Martina Farrica was just 6 when she began swimming. She was 10 when she was taken from her parents and sent to the special swim school in Magdeburg. Her roommate was another 10-year-old, Jutta Claus.
We were always together, right from the beginning, like a little family.
But the two fifth graders quickly discovered they were expected to train 8 hours a day.
We had to swim in our jogging outfits with heavy weights around our legs and arms. The trainers wouldn't just say, you have to swim faster. They would say, you stupid cow, why don't you try harder?
And along with the intense training came the little blue pills.
We were given tablets right from the beginning, when we were 10. But by the time we were 12, the pills increased. We got dozens every day. Plus, they gave us injections.
One didn't ask questions. If you did, you'd be punished and just have to train harder.
Although Martina Farika became the national junior backstroke champion, she says she was so burned out mentally and physically that she quit at the age of 15. But athletes who went on to win gold became icons in East Germany. In the early 80s, Birgit Meinecke was the fastest freestyle swimmer in the world.
You achieved amazing success. You were 3 times the world champion, 6 times the European champion. Life for you was very different then than it was for everybody else in East Germany?
Yes, you can say that. I had a lot of privileges. I had an apartment. I saw the world. I traveled a lot, which was very difficult in East Germany. And I was financially secure.
But fame came at a price. Elite athletes like Birgit Meinecke were taken to the highly secure Sports Institute, where they were tested in laboratory-like conditions. This top-secret film shows the bizarre training rituals utilized by the East Germans, electric currents to improve muscle tone, tissue samples extracted, every test designed to measure endurance.
I have terrible memories of that place. 4 times a year we were tested and I had to swim wearing a gas mask in a tank. I was terribly claustrophobic under the mask.
Like the others, Meinecke couldn't help but notice the changes in her body, but her coach convinced her she wasn't being doped.
Every time we traveled out of the country for competitions, we had to take a drug test. And when we passed, that proved to us that we weren't being given drugs.
What Meinecke didn't know was that the researchers at the Institute had carefully calculated how long it took for the steroids to pass through her body. Top secret documents now show how athletes were monitored, so the steroids could be stopped in time to test clean for competitions. Even so, under State Plan 1425, they took no chances.
They tested all the athletes 2 or 1 day before they could leave the country. So they made sure at this time that every athlete was negative before he left the country, so nothing could happen. And they could sing the song of a drug-free East Germany all over the world.
State Plan 1425 would be exposed by an unlikely whistleblower.
That whistleblower's name was Dr. Werner Franke, a renowned scientist married to a former East German athlete. And that was one of the reasons he became obsessed with uncovering the truth. But how did he do it? And how far did he have to go?
One man on a dangerous journey, miles from help, digging for evidence of an appalling government experiment. Would he be stopped dead in his tracks?
A high-ranking officer of the old system appeared and said, only over my dead body you get these scientific documents out of here.
When 2020 returns. Continues after this from our ABC stations. 2020 continues.
East German officials probably thought their sick experiment would remain hidden from the world forever. But they hadn't counted on what would happen when the Berlin Wall came down, uniting East and West. West Germany would appoint a committee to investigate what East German scientists had been up to. Dr. Werner Franke was an esteemed member of that committee, and like many others, he suspected East Germany was doping its athletes. But how could he prove it?
It was 1990, just months after the Berlin Wall fell, when Dr. Werner Franke headed into the heart of what had once been communist East Germany.
It was not without danger, you know, to undergo such a trip at the time.
Dr. Franke set off on a crusade that would last more than a decade. He flew from Frankfurt to Berlin, searching for the paperwork that would prove him right. He knew the secret police, the Stasi, kept elaborate records on everything. But Franke also knew that while the wall was coming down, classified documents were frantically being destroyed. Was the evidence lost in 17,000 sacks of shredded paper? Just as he was about to leave Berlin, Franke got a tip.
That certain scientific documents had not been destroyed in the shredder machines, but may have been left in a place where nobody had thought of before.
Dr. Franke decided to investigate. He hired a taxi to take him to a remote place called Bad Saro, a military facility where he believed the most sensitive classified documents had been hidden. It was early morning when he arrived, uncertain if he would even be allowed inside.
Did you really think they were going to let you in to look at these top secret files?
It was a fight. A high-ranking officer of the old system appeared and said, only over my dead body you get these scientific documents out of here.
You went toe-to-toe with these guys, yelling right back saying,
yes, yes.
I have this authorization.
Yes.
And it worked.
It worked, yeah.
Somehow, Dr. Franke was able to outmaneuver the officials in charge and walked out with 8 highly classified doctoral theses. The documents left little doubt that State Plan 1425 was an elaborate government-run operation on how to cheat.
They actually wrote theses on how to avoid having steroids detected in athletes at world competition?
How to cheat the international system, that's right.
How long were the East Germans aware that these steroids were not only causing deep voices and acne, but also liver damage to these athletes? How long did they know this and continue to give these athletes these steroids?
They knew this right from the beginning. They recorded the damaging side effects in these doctoral theses. So it's very much like, you know, doing experiments with guinea pigs.
As he reviewed the documents, Dr. Franke discovered charts and diagrams comparing the performance of more than 200 athletes to the steroid doses they received. Dr. Franke now had undeniable proof that East Germany's top champions had all been doped. The trials finally began in 1998. Team doctors and swimming coaches from the elite swim clubs accused of giving steroids to teenage female swimmers without informing them or their parents. Among those charged, Coach Rolf Glaser, who made headlines at the '76 Olympics when questioned about his athletes' deep voices. We're here to swim, he said, not sing.
I think to me, Mr. Glaser was like a surrogate father. I spent more time with him than with my own parents.
Glaser's shining star, Birgit Meinecke, initially refused to believe her coach would have betrayed her. Then prosecutors showed Meinecke, now a general surgeon, the damning medical files found at the Stasi headquarters. She quickly agreed to testify.
You must have felt very betrayed to find out that this was done to you.
What they did to us was carried out in an unconscionable manner. I blamed the steroids for my deep voice and for my liver tumor. I'm afraid of what my health will be like in 10 or 15 years.
Dr. Dorit Rosla was one of the first doctors to be convicted.
Now, when you look back, what do you think of your role in this?
When I stood in front of the mirror, I got dizzy. I broke out in a sweat, and the questions kept coming. The questions, and always the question, why? The only way I could deal with it was to go public and to try to make amends as much as possible.
Dr. Rosla publicly apologized and was fined 7,200 Deutschmarks, less than $4,000.
In this country, sometimes people didn't think because other people thought for them. So why they should think about, they couldn't change anything. So they worked in the system, they were part of the system. They did what other people told them.
The person who told Dr. Rosler what to do was this man, Dr. Lothar Kipke, the top doctor of the East German Swimming Federation. The case against Dr. Kipke captured the world's attention when two athletes came forward with an explosive accusation. Martina Faraka and Jutta Klaas, roommates at age 10, now have something else in common.
After sports school, we lost touch. We are back together now because we both have children with birth defects.
Jutta Klaas's daughter, Corinna, was born with an inoperable cataract and glaucoma in her left eye.
I believe with certainty that my daughter's blindness is because of the hormones. The worst part for me is how I will explain this to my daughter one day, that she has to live with this. It's something that keeps me awake at night.
I had problems with every one of my pregnancies, and no one could ever explain why.
Martina Faraka's 15-year-old son Daniel was born with a club foot, and despite numerous surgeries, he remains disabled. Both women hold Dr. Kipke responsible for what happened to their children.
I told him, look my child in the face and look at what you have done. Explain to him why you have done this to him. And he couldn't. And then his attorney stood up and objected.
We know many other athletes who have children with club feet, spina bifida or blindness. We are not the only ones.
Dr. Kipke's trial lasted just one day. He was convicted, but sentenced to probation, not prison.
There was no apology. He just said he had orders to follow from higher up. So there was nothing he could have done.
There was just one last chance for justice.
When we come back, one more bombshell. The two men accused of masterminding this heinous plan go on trial. What punishment do you think they deserve? What would the court decide?
A day of reckoning for all the world to see. Former athletes who want justice and secret documents revealing more grotesque details. A government plan for greatness that would stop at nothing.
There were cases where they, and now I quote, abortion was ordered by the government.
Excellence in broadcast journalism, now always on abcnews.com. For more on the stories, interactive features, and live chats, go to 2020.abcnews.com. Monday.
The conclusion of The Perfect Race. Once again, Barbara Walters.
They looked like decent men, but they stood accused of devising an inhuman experiment carried out on East German children. The victims had been suffering the effects for years. Now it was payback time. But would the court exact a fitting punishment for these crimes? Elizabeth Vargas takes you to the dramatic finish of The Perfect Race.
The Friesen Sports Stadium, the showcase of East Germany's triumphant success in sports, would become a sad symbol of the havoc and destruction caused by State Plan 1425. Over the years, more than 40 coaches, doctors, and trainers have been convicted, and 40 times they've been given a slap on the wrist. The last chance for justice would be the trial against Manfred Ewald, the former chief of East Germany's Olympic team, and Manfred Höppner, his top-ranking medical director. Both men declared they were innocent. From all over Germany, top athletes travel to Berlin for this final trial. They are not seeking money, but say they've been given life sentences and wonder if anyone will spend even a day in prison.
These athletes who are now in the courtroom, that takes immense courage. They are still considered, I now quote, sports traitors.
Sports traitors?
Sports traitors are those who tell secrets of their drug and treatment and others to the public, to other nations. These are original Stasi files.
By now, the court evidence was nothing short of overwhelming, and Dr. Franke has read it all, tens of thousands of documents detailing the side effects that have ravaged the health of athletes.
These are the reports, in this case of Dr. Höppner.
For 10 years, Franke has known about the liver and kidney damage, the ovarian cysts, the shrinking uteruses, but even he has been stunned by the dark secrets he's uncovered in the Stasi files.
There were cases where some got pregnant, and, I quote, abortion was ordered by the government.
The East German government ordered athletes to have abortions?
I have quoted from a report of this Dr. Höppner, who is currently under trial.
Dr. Franke says one athlete, a cross-country skier, told him she was forced by a team doctor to have an abortion at age 17.
She today still suffers from that happening a decade ago. And she wants this to be punished in the courtroom. She said, I should never have been forced to an abortion at the time.
What possible explanation could Dr. Höppner, the alleged mastermind of State Plan 1425, have for a system that resorted to such tactics?
The biggest mistake we made was that we noted everything down very conscientiously. And that is why we are now at the center of media attention, as though we had been the only ones in the world who broke the rules of sport.
After 2 months of testimony, the verdict was announced. Dr. Höppner and Manfred Ewald were both found guilty of causing bodily harm to young athletes. The judge declared Ewald was the driving force behind State Plan 1425 and that he kept it going with merciless hardness. But once again, the punishment was probation, not prison.
I want to make sure nothing like this happens again.
For Carola Nitschke and the other Wonder Girls, there is a sad chapter yet to be written.
To me, the medals have lost their value. They don't mean anything to me.
Nitschke has voluntarily given back the gold medals she won at the age of 14.
What do you think about these people who now say that you should relinquish your medals, that you don't deserve them?
I don't think I should have to return my medals. I trained very hard and I didn't know I was being doped. And who's to say that the other swimmers I competed against weren't also being doped?
I just think it's a tragedy for those girls. You know, here we are. Of course, I don't have a medal, but I'm sure glad that I'm sitting here healthy. My kids are healthy. But I wouldn't take my health for what they're sitting through right now.
Okay, one more race.
For Wendy Bolio, who trained for years in hopes of winning a gold medal at the Olympics, there is little solace in knowing she was right back in 1976.
What do you think should be done?
Personally, I'm not interested in having any of those women's medals. What we have pushed for is at least put it in the record books. Look, these women from East Germany were on. It is proven they were on steroids. Here, we'd like to acknowledge the United States women who could have placed.
The point is to make sure it doesn't happen again. To have some sort of recognition would be nice, but the most important thing is so it doesn't happen again. So another country or state or parent doesn't say, hey, I'm going to give my kid the edge by sticking these drugs into them.
Rika Reinisch, whose heart problem has worsened since our interview, is left to wonder what price she will pay for her 3 gold medals.
The worst for me isn't what they did to my health.
And it is a new Olympic record for Rika Reinisch.
I thought after all this time I would be numb. But when I see the joy and know how unbelievably hard I trained to achieve it all, it sweeps me away. I still get goosebumps. But they took away from me the opportunity to ever know if I could have won the gold medals without the steroids. That's the greatest betrayal of all.
You may wonder why we chose to focus on women athletes, because men were also part of the experiment, but women often suffer more dramatic and permanent effects from steroid use than men do. And one final note. This past August, a special ceremony was held at the U.S. Olympic swim trials to honor the 1976 swim team, those women who turned in an outstanding performance without the use of drugs. But of course, they didn't receive medals at the ceremony. You can read excerpts from the top secret files and see the government documents for yourself by logging on to abcnews.com. We'll be right back. Who still fascinates us, Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis.